joining us there from Miami. Appreciate it. Thank you, Chris. And here in LA with me now, Dave Jacobson, a Democratic strategist and campaign consultant with Shulman Communications, and John Thomas, a Republican consultant, also the founder and president of Thomas Partner Strategies, the two wise men, yin and yang. You know, we have many names for you.
Happy to be here.
But they're all fond.
Okay, that's good.
Good to have you with us once again. Listen, everyone's talking about the tone of the debate and how it was gentler and softer. We're going to play some sound from the debate, but just very quickly, right off the bat, your thoughts on the tone.
I think Donald Trump did exactly what he needed to do, which was a shift to general election strategy and showing the party that he can be a uniter, that he can attract people beyond just throwing insults. He did what he needed to do. Ted Cruz did what he needed to do, which was let Trump continue to probably beat Marco Rubio in Florida and make this a two-person contest. And Marco Rubio shifted strategies back to a calmer, more in-control Rubio, quite frankly, because what he was doing early with insults wasn't working.
Yeah, and Dave, it was more like a Democratic debate.
Right, precisely. I mean, it was a complete 180 from what we've seen before. You know, and this campaign is sort of full of surprises. Every single debate has proved to be something different. And so this was a big pivot from what we've seen traditionally throughout the primary on the Republican side.
Ted Cruz went after Donald Trump for his comments to CNN where he said Islam hates America, saying basically that, you know, we need a real solution, not just rhetoric. I want you to take a listen to some of what was said in that exchange.
Last night you told CNN, quote, Islam hates us. Did you mean all 1.6 billion Muslims?
I mean a lot of them. I mean a lot of them.
Do you want to clarify the comment at all?
Well, you know, I've been watching the debate today, and they're talking about radical Islamic terrorism or radical Islam, but I will tell you there's something going on that maybe you don't know about and maybe a lot of other people don't know about, but there's tremendous hatred, and I will stick with exactly what I said to Anderson Cooper.
People are scared, and for 7 years we faced terrorist attacks, and President Obama lectures Americans on Islamophobia. That is maddening. But the answer is not simply to yell, China bad, Muslims bad. You've got to understand the nature of the threats we're facing and how you deal with them.
John, what did you make of Trump doubling down?
Well, I think the Cruz response to me is what Marco Rubio would say several weeks ago, which is this is nuanced thing. They're complicated. You know, Ted Cruz a couple weeks ago would have said, let's carpet bomb them, right? This is a Ted Cruz understanding if Marco Rubio drops out of this race, his supporters are going to go somewhere. And so perhaps if he can bring this is a more complicated strategy, he can attract Rubio's supporters. I think to Trump's point, that was a Trump being as moderate as he could be. Without normal Trump would double down on the comments earlier. He just didn't. He just held strong. And the problem he's got, Aisha, is his brand is he will apologize for nothing. He thinks America's been apologizing too long. So Trump really has backed himself into a corner on this.
Well, I think also he's sort of preying on the fears and the anxiety that the GOP voters have. And I think the problem, the challenge is you saw a major pivot tonight to sort of the middle, you know, trying to be the more tempered candidate. The problem is he's got enormous unfavorables, broadly speaking, in terms of a general election. He's the only major GOP contender who loses to either Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders.
Depending on the poll you
and NBC just put out a poll that shows a 64% unfavorable, 24% favorable rating for Donald Trump. So that's true.
And these kinds of comments, Dave, surely the Democrats will be seizing on if Trump becomes, you know, it's a point of contrast.
And it's been said, so now the ads just write themselves. So there's no question, in a general election, Donald Trump's got his work cut out for him, but we've seen candidates pivot before, and tonight we're seeing Trump pivot, and we'll see if the electorate believes it.
Well, I think this is going to be another wedge issue that the Democrats capitalize on, and it just underscores the fact that Donald is really the divider and conqueror in chief. I mean, this is a guy who.
But he wants to be the uniter in chief, it would seem, in recent days.
He's trying.
Right. Well, we'll see if he pivots back to the middle for the general if he makes it there.
Lots of people are pivoting, to be fair to Donald Trump.
True.
Listen, the candidates were also asked about America's policy on Cuba. Rubio doesn't want a relationship with Cuba yet, while Trump said, you know, Cuba should be open to the U.S., but with more negotiation. Take a listen to this clip.
What I want is I want a much better deal to be made, because right now Cuba is making, as usual with our country, we don't make good deals. We don't have our right people negotiating. We have people that don't have a clue.
Here's a good deal. Cuba has free elections. Cuba stops putting people in jail for speaking out. Cuba has freedom of the press. Cuba kicks out the Russians from Lourdes and kicks out this Chinese listening station in Baikal. Cuba stops helping North Korea invade UN sanctions. Cuba takes all of those fugitives of American justice, including that cop killer from New Jersey, and send her back to the United States and to jail where she belongs. And you know what? Then we can have a relationship with Cuba. That's a good deal.
So, John, obviously strong comments there by Marco Rubio, got his biggest applause of the night, but what's it worth? I mean, what is this issue worth in this race?
I think to Florida, that's an important distinction Marco Rubio drove, but I think Donald Trump's response is more of a general election response, less of a Florida response. So Marco Rubio did score some points. I think Donald Trump is basically saying he's assuming he's going to squeak out Florida and Rubio's going to be gone, and Trump is looking 100% at what to do in a general election, and all of his answers are geared toward that.
But Dave, initially on the campaign trail, Donald Trump has said it's fine, you know, dealing with Cuba. Now he's like, yeah, but I want a better deal. Some would say he's passing. Some would say, he's just being Trump.
Right. I think it's further evidence the fact that he's a policy lightweight, and he probably doesn't know all the deep sort of policy issues around this issue. And I think Marco Rubio was throwing red meat to Republicans who are going to be voting next Tuesday. Right. He needed sort of lightning to strike tonight, and I think he tried to capitalize on this issue to give a jolt of electricity into his campaign, because right now you've got polls showing him down anywhere from 8 points to over 20 points. And so he sort of needed some issue to build some support. And look, the other day we saw Bernie Sanders was 21 points behind Hillary Clinton in Michigan, and he pulled through. So I guess anything can happen at this point in this race, right?
All right. I want to talk about an appalling moment on the campaign trail at a Donald Trump rally. In North Carolina, I just want to set the scene for our viewers who may not have been following it. In North Carolina, officials say a man who attended this Donald Trump rally and assaulted a protester is now facing charges. As you see the video there, this man was walking out of this rally being escorted. He's being led out by police when he's sucker punched, effectively, by a gentleman there. Showing you another view of what happened. And the alleged attacker is identified as 78-year-old. That man is a 78-year-old man. His name is John McGraw, and he's due in court next month. During CNN's Republican debate, Trump was asked about this incident. He said he doesn't condone this type of behavior at his campaign events. Let's listen to what exactly Mr. Trump had to say.
We have some protesters who are bad dudes. They have done bad things. They are swinging. They are really dangerous. And they get in there and they start hitting people. And we had a couple big, strong, powerful guys doing damage to people. Not only the loudness I don't mind, but doing serious damage.
You know, this is one of the biggest problems people have with Trump, that in the face of things that are so obviously distasteful and unacceptable, he still tries to skirt the issue. In this case, he says he doesn't condone the violence, but then goes on to offer what almost seems to be a justification for some of these episodes we've seen, saying these protesters do what they do and they're a menace. What did you make of that?
I mean, it was despicable, Aisha. It's unacceptable. And yes, he denounced it, but he should have gone even further than that. He didn't. I think he's wrong. But in fairness, we've seen at political events before on both sides of the aisle, even with groups like Code Pink, that these protesters, we just saw a short clip, but these protesters go in trying to get media attention, saying and doing outrageous things in the hopes that controversy will happen while they're there. And that was a sucker punch. But we don't know what those protesters did before to enrage the audience. Not that it's okay.
Because he was just walking out at that point, but being led out.
But there's, you know, we don't know what he said 5 minutes before that might have been equally as despicable. We don't know. Doesn't make it right. But I think what this is teaching us today is that protesters are going to know that they can go to Donald Trump rallies and pick fights, say things, and get media coverage. And I hope we don't see more of this, but I'm afraid we will.
Dave, what does it say to you?
Well, what I also found deeply disturbing was after this individual got sucker punched, the sheriffs or police officers, whoever was escorting him out, essentially tackled him, at least from what I said. Yeah, and so, you know, that raises questions about, you know, what actually is going on, what law enforcement is actually doing to sort of prevent these things from happening.
I have to ask you about, you know, again, the message that's being sent here, because, you know, this did happen at a Trump rally. Some saying this just points to Trump dividing the country, us versus them.
Right. Well, and we've got data to prove that. I mean, if you look at his fave, unfave, and I mean, this goes back to him sort of exacerbating people's fears. He's preying on their fears and their anxieties. And these are the kinds of folks who are turning out for Donald Trump rallies. And these are, frankly, the new voters who don't normally participate who are weighing in on these primaries.
Well, in fairness to Donald Trump, I mean, it is rallies. You'll see 20, 30,000 people, and there are a lot more protests